Talk Show. Recorded live.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you're listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable Podcast. This is podcast number 575. My name is Eric Nelson, and with me I have my regular co-host, Matt Longeth. Today's Wednesday, October 6th, 2021. Matt, how are you doing today?
Eric, we're in the midst of VMworld. More product announcements than you can wrap your head around. New acronyms, new technologies, all of everything that set our new strategy that are going to be out there for the coming months and years. Really excited about it. We see a lot of enthusiasm coming from our customers and partners. So can't wait to get into all of that. We have two guests with us today to speak about some of the things that are out there on the EUS side, as well as our multi-cloud experience. But before we get to that, sir, most importantly, how are you and what is the color of the pay?
I am jazzed and caffeined up beyond caffeine. I think I only got 3 hours sleep last night because we did Europe sessions. We had VMware Code sessions, VMTN sessions. They're all live. We did all live for like these 100 sessions. So everybody's in, and we've had like 100 plus people in every single session. So I think the traffic has been twice as much traffic as previous years. So I am caffeined up. I am raw. There is no longer a filter on what I say here. So I'll just do a caveat right now. Like I'm just going to tell it how it is, which so far I'm super impressed with this year's VMworld. So, and the color of the bay, it is just a cloudy, kind of foggy day here coming into October. Winter has kind of showed up in the Bay Area. So it's a little chilly, and the bay is just a dark green with a light chop. So, living the California dream out here, but getting into a little bit cooler fall weather. So on the show, Roger Dean and Dan. Dan, I don't know how to say your last name.
Let's go ahead with Dan Flaherty.
Flaherty. All right, there we go. Yeah. Dan Flaherty. So we'll just go around the horn a little bit here before we get into the main show content, and just say, so Roger, we'll start with you. Who are you? What do you do? What do you work on? What do you think of VMworld so far?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Eric. So Roger Dean, I am the director of technical. I'm a director in the technical marketing team in EUC, or End User Computing Business Unit of VMware. My role is I manage a group of very, very smart experts that put together a lot of material around EUC products, specifically Workspace ONE UEM, Workspace ONE Intelligence, and the VMware Unified Access Gateway, or UAG. We also have another team of people that do VMware Horizon and also the Workspace ONE Access product. So we put together training materials, we put together tutorials. All that stuff is posted on TechZone, techzone.vmware.com. So I encourage anyone in the community to go out. If you are using an EUC product and you're a practitioner, or you just want to learn more about the products, go check out techzone.vmware.com. And we also have a lot of other BUs now that have their own version of TechZone. So there's Carbon Black, there's the Core, a lot of these TechZone things. And so I started with AirWatch almost exactly 10 years ago. We were acquired by VMware in 2014. I've been working here ever since then. I was a sales engineer for many years, and then I moved into technical marketing with a group of really great and smart SMEs that now we just basically create content for the product. My thoughts on VMware, I think it's going well. I know you said your sessions were up in attendance. Our sessions have been down in attendance a little bit, but we've had some great interactions, especially in my Meet the Expert sessions with some customers and partners and other folks. And like you, I was up all night last night doing Meet the Expert sessions in APJ and EMEA, and early this morning as well. So I am tired. Hopefully I won't say anything stupid in the middle of this session, but I'll do my best to stay awake.
You look fresh as a daisy on camera.
Well, thank you.
Beat Barbecue. Go check us out. Roger looks pretty good. Dan, you got a minute and a half elevator pitch, and then what do you think of VMworld?
Yeah, well, thank you first, Eric and Roger, for staying up late and doing those sessions. I'm on the multi-cloud solutions team, and part of our remit lately has been putting together a lot of these sessions. So I've been working with my counterparts on the multi-cloud teams and the different business groups that produce these products to build out these sessions, what we want to talk about, the storylines that are most important to our customers at VMworld. And I've seen the schedule. It's pretty intense. Thank you again for being up late and doing that. But in general, the multi-cloud solution team brings together what we talk about with like our HCI stack, our VMware Cloud on different hyperscalers and management into one value story for our customers to make what VMware delivers to an enterprise or given company a little bit easier to understand at the onset of discovering VMware, learning about our products, and what we can do for you as a company. So that comes through a lot of written content, events like VMworld and the like. In terms of my experience at VMworld, this is my first one. I'm pretty impressed so far with the volume of content and how many people come together to put forth what they're working on, the best ideas for how to drive value in our customers, and also how it's delivered. Like, I know it's tough. Everybody's gone to so many webinars, digital events in the past year and a half. But I like how our company has put this together with some breaks in between, some good guests, a way to basically take the deep technical information, give you a breather, let you dive back in, take another breather, maybe with a cooking class or a little bit of Will Smith. And so I think it's been great.
Great. And Matt, you've been quiet here. You know, you look reserved. How's it going? Are you sleep or are you just happy?
Well, I started out this morning with 5 sessions that I was happy enough to be able to co-host that were community sessions over on vBrownBag, and every single one of them had, you know, attendance numbers in the hundreds and lots of great dialogue, questions, interactivity, not just, you know, sitting there and listening to the speaker run through their deck. There was constant interaction on chat and questions from the audience and whatnot. So my feedback is high participation, at least for the sessions that I was privileged enough to co-host, and a high level of engagement for our customers and partners that are out there. And this is across all the BUs that are out there. This was from everything from HCX to multi-cloud offerings to some VROPS performance tweaking and whatnot. So it wasn't just like it was a set BU that had really stood out. It was a high level engagement across all the platforms that are out there. So I think that we've seen some, you know, great announcements, a lot of information to process, most certainly some great new acronyms and code names that are out there for projects that have dropped, and can't wait to really just sort of digest it all still, right? We're, even as an employee, we're still trying to consume all of this information and see where this leads and what we have coming on. And I will say that obviously, as we talk through with Roger and Dan here today, that this is, you know, a new technology. And this doesn't represent, you know, a new commitment from VMware to deliver these projects or features as far as general availability, right? This could be some forward statements, and these are subject to change, pricing and availability and whatnot. So that some of these items that we talked to could be, you know, in tech preview, and it's how they might be delivered as far as the ultimate product obviously is subject to change.
Yeah.
Now
absolutely.
that that's out of the way, sir, let's go back to you, Eric.
Yeah. Well, I'll just do my quick summary of things that I thought was great about the show so far. One, the attendance is awesome. But also, if you weren't able to attend, you're listening to this podcast on the weekend, I would encourage you to go to VMworld.com. All the sessions are going to be posted online. You can go listen to them. And I would do a shout out to, oddly enough, both the Workspace ONE keynote and the Kit Colbert talking about MultiCloud. I think Kit, amazing. I actually rewound Kit's session a couple times and watched it again because it was just that good. How many keynotes do you actually rewind from executives and watch again? Kit was amazing. And talking about multi-cloud, I got to say I'm starting to become a believer. I have been a little bit on the fence when it comes to, well, actually everybody need to use this tech. But let me tell you, after listening to Kit and starting to go through the sessions at VMworld, I'm like, wow, this is really, really, this is like what you saw when we went from vSphere to buying NSX, right? Like where you went, oh, I get this now. When we first got NSX, I went, oh, it's going to be a layer on top of Cisco switches or embedded below it. And like the switches vendors have to play with this. And like, then all of a sudden you see how it was being built by VMware and how good it was. And you just start to see the masses shifting, right? I see this with multi-cloud. I see this actually happening when you listen to the narrative and you see what we're doing. Wow, I was impressed by both of those keynotes. So Kit Colbert did a keynote, and then, I forget which.
Shankar.
Yeah. Shankar did another great one. I think those are the best 2 keynotes. So go to VMworld.com and watch those. They're absolutely worth it. I thought that was good. The VMware code sessions have been just like the community sessions. They're busy. William Lamb did a great session. There were like 150, 200 people on some of these sessions where they're all live and they're all recorded. So go check those out. Those were worth it. We also did do a shout out to the hackathon. I think it was 40 or 50 people, kind of reserved because it's hard to do a hackathon when nobody's in the same room. But Kiripa and crew for VMware Code did a nice job. And shout out to Corey Romero, who did the vExpert parties, US and Europe. We didn't do parties last year. And how much of a party can you have on online? But we did an awards ceremony where everybody got backpacks and got hammocks and gave away decent rewards. And we gave away, I think we had announced 40 different categories, 40 different awards in like 10 different categories. A lot of fun in the vExpert party. Everybody was engaged, saying hello. Corey did a great job there. And at the end, we had a spinning wheel and we put everybody's name in a list where we had like 150 people on the wheel, and then we gave away 60 other prizes, and so it was just a lot of fun. So shout out to those as well. I gotta say, this year's VMworld was twice as good as last year's VMworld for people engaged. Just one final shout out to give you a sense. Niels Haggart did a session, MCL 1833, which is what you need to know, top 10 things you need to know about Project Monterey. We had 4,000 people on that session. Right.
Wow, nice.
Just
I'll throw out another stat, Eric. I was on the Slack channel yesterday and there were 28,000 people on Slack. So definitely an engaged audience this year. It's great to see.
Yeah, definitely. That's been fun. We've been on Slack in the community room saying hello to people. A lot of people have come in to say hello, Tony Foster. And we actually have people on Slack 24/7 for the last, since we started yesterday. There's always been people in there covering the channels, saying hello, directing people and so forth, running kind of some surveys and contests. So a lot of fun, but really it's all about the content. And so now we're going to start talking about the content. So I think, Roger, we thought we'd start with you. The announcements, there's just been a lot of announcements, and Workspace ONE, when I watched the session yesterday, the keynote, I was kind of excited about it as well. There's just been a lot of transition with COVID and mobile workforce, and now I never have to go back to VMware.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Like that, they've said you don't ever have to come back, and I'm like, I like to come back, kind of hybrid, right? Once in a while. Then I drive in traffic and I go, wait, I don't ever want to go back.
I like a bit staying at home. Yeah.
So our ability to move forward through that, and this becoming, the way it is, and the keynote, that's what he said. He says, this is the new real. This is it. So lots of stuff going on. So why don't you tell me what are we talking about? What have we announced? What makes you excited about the space?
Sure, absolutely. So, as Matt said, a lot of this stuff is forward looking. So I'll talk about some of the cooler stuff that's coming very, very soon near the end of this. But as you said, the whole pandemic has really shined a huge spotlight on end user computing. And, being in device management for 10 years, I mean, our saying from the beginning was any device, any application, anywhere. And that has never been more true than it has for the last 18 months. So it's really kind of cool to see where all this work that we've been doing for years has just really taken hold and people are really embracing it. And along with that, one of the big things that we're seeing is, people kind of panicked and they did whatever they could just to get people up and running from home. And then they came back and sat back and looked at it and said, well, wait a minute, that's really not very secure. That doesn't really,
or it doesn't scale, or
it doesn't scale.
VPNs.
Exactly. So one of the big problems we had was the number of licenses customers had on their VPN maybe was 1,000, and now they had 40,000 people trying to get in over the VPN, and it didn't scale, and they security just like went in the back closet for 6 months where everyone just got access. So now everyone's trying to do it the right way. They realize that people don't need to come in because study shows that people were more effective working from home, at least initially, than they were actually coming to the office, which was the opposite of what most people thought. So everyone's kind of like, okay, let's do hybrid, let's do work from home. And now people are moving all over the country, getting their parents and people, whatever, where they need to be instead of being in the New York or Palo Alto or wherever. So what we announced last year, earlier this year, end of last year, earlier this year, was this thing called Anywhere Workspace. And Anywhere Workspace is kind of taking that work from home to a new level, and it adds a new layer of security it adds a new way to connect to corporate resources without requiring a VPN. And we've released, that's been released over this past year. And we added a new feature in there from Cloud Web Security so that now if I'm browsing websites through that SASE POP, I can actually look at the traffic and make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to whenever they go to the sites that we've designated as, Office 365 or whatever. The next iteration of that we're talking about is additions onto what you can do with that anywhere workspace. So a lot of the things they talked about were how there can be more trust around that, some more features in that SASE POP. This, instead of you hitting a POP in the cloud with your device and getting a really good throughput to cloud services, web services, now in the future we'll get much better internet connection to the corporate office and to back-end systems. So a lot of announcements and movement forward with that whole progression of anywhere workspace. It's really, there's not a fixed point in time when we're going to say we're done with anywhere workspace. We're going to continue to grow and enhance it over time and make it better and better and better. So that was one of the big things. Some of the other things that we announced, we've been talking about, and I know I've specifically been talking about employee experience for a long time. A customer of
DEX,
mine,
I saw that Sean has referred to that now as DEX, Digital Employee Experience.
Digital Employee Experience, exactly. And I learned about this 3 or 4 years ago from a great customer who said, their number one thing was making sure that their employees had a great experience when they were using their technology. And a lot of, and I've been preaching this for a few years, is that it's one of the key things when you hire someone, especially someone who's just coming out of college right now, their expectation of what the technology is and how easy is it to use, and do I enjoy using it? Can I use the device that I like using versus the one you force me to use? Do I have the freedom to work from anywhere, or do I have to come in the office? So a lot of those things play into the decisions that employees make about choosing a company and staying with the company. And a lot of people will leave because of their, they are not, happy, especially around using the IT technology. So this digital employee experience, it was formerly named the Digital Employee Experience Manager, or DEEM, and it's now going to kind of be, we're going to call them both things, DEEM and DEX. We all know VMware loves names and acronyms, but the whole idea is that if you're using Workspace ONE and you're using Workspace ONE Intelligence, that an administrator can get notified that an employee's device is having problems. So their Windows 10 computer apps are crashing on it. Maybe it blue screened or rebooted when it wasn't supposed to. And right now we can see that, but it's kind of hard to drill down in and find out exactly what the problem is. So what's coming in this next year is the ability for administrators to easily diagnose what the problem is and hopefully know about that issue before the employee even really knows there's something going on. So the idea is to make that employee's experience using the technology much, much better. And we're doing that through Workspace ONE UEM and Workspace ONE Intelligence, where we're gathering information about app crashes, about blue screens, about reboots, things like that. And we're using our machine learning to analyze that and say, okay, this guy's having a real problem. Someone needs to take a look at that. And then that's kind of where we are now, but where we're going is it's going to be a lot more intuitive and easier for an administrator to really drill in very, very quickly and find out what's going on with that employee's device and get it fixed immediately. So that's going to be really cool. We talk about zero trust, and that doesn't mean there's no trust. That means we do not trust. If you guys are familiar with what zero trust is do not trust anyone until they prove that they are who they are and their device is the device that they're supposed to be using. That means you cannot get access to resources unless you prove all of these things. There is zero trust for anybody until you prove who you are. So that is a term that Google and some others coined many years ago, and a lot of companies have implemented that. To get access to the resources, I don't need a VPN. The resource is just protected by a solution, which can be Workspace ONE, that checks all of these things about the device and about the person, and then allows them to get access to those resources. So we're doing a lot more with zero trust. We've got, we acquired Carbon Black this year, so Carbon Black will play into that a lot. Is the endpoint secure? Are there any viruses on it? Are there any malicious applications on it? Things like that. And so there's a lot coming with zero trust this year around that. So you'll see a lot more a lot more technology there. Sorry, I'm just kind of scanning through my notes of what's new and what was announced. And I don't know how much time I have. I'm trying to kind of burn through these pretty quick. So if I'm
we're going to give you another. We're going to give you till 12:35. So
okay, 10 more minutes.
yeah, something like that.
Okay. So another cool thing that was just announced, it's very, very early on, it's really just conceptual, is that our former CEO, Pat, went to Intel, and now Intel and us are coming, vPro, right. So
Yeah.
vPro is
ILO
really
and
cool.
iDRAC on steroids. I think of it. Maybe that's an oversimplification, but
no, I think you're really close. Like with Dell, we were already able to do some things with the Dell command suite, and we could interact with a Dell computer, get into BIOS, upgrade BIOS, do a lot of things that we can't do on other devices, other manufacturers, simply because, Dell at the time owned us. But now with the vPro is, if you're not familiar with Intel vPro, it's really a layer of software and hardware on the device that really provides additional information about the status of the device. And so what we're going to do is what we announced is that we're going to interface the data that vPro is capturing into our intelligence and into our Workspace ONE environment, so that now we can make much more informed, or the company customer can make much more informed decisions about the state of that device. Is it working like it's supposed to? Is it up and running? Has it crashed? Is it secure? Does it have the right OS stuff? All the stuff that vPro is capturing is now going to be integrated in. And the idea around intelligence is we want to gather as much information about the user and about the device that they're using and the applications they're using, and gather that into intelligence and have this huge data lake. And then we have our machine learning crunch all that information to come up with everything's fine with Roger, or no, Roger is logging in from 2 different places at the same time. That's a problem. Or he's logging in at 10 a.m. instead of 5 a.m., which he normally does. So there's something weird going on. So let's maybe up the authentication for Roger. So now he has to do 2-factor, or maybe now we don't allow him to log in because he's in China and he wasn't supposed to be in China, things like that, or, somewhere else in the world that's not supposed to be. So that whole vPro interface or integration is going to be really cool. It's just another point of data that we're going to gather, and it expands out what we can do, as opposed to just being like a Dell laptop. Now it's any device running Intel and that has the vPro capabilities.
There was a question in chat: which product license do we need for vPro support?
We don't know that yet. We will see as that matures and what's available. Again, this is very, very early on in the announcement and in the technology. There are some new licensing and pricing and packaging coming out next year.
Employee Essentials, another package that we're putting together, is for M&As and whatnot. Is that not right, Roger? We're combining Intelligent Hub, Workspace ONE Access, Tunnel, and UAG as its own bundle offering to sort of subset if you didn't want the full-blown UEM package.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of work going on, and I don't even know if this was honestly announced. I had a session going on at the same time as the keynote. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but where all the announcements were made. But there's a lot of work going on so that we can provide some of the features that we have without requiring you to own the full UEM license, the full Workspace ONE stack. This may be because someone has Intune managing their devices, and usually you can only have one management component device. So let's say someone wants to take advantage of a SASE POP, so they need the tunnel and they need a few other things. So we'll be able to actually what we call register the device, as opposed to manage or enroll the device. We'll register the device with a UEM instance, very, 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 very light management, and allow that device to connect to the SASE POP to get that secure tunnel. Another thing that will be coming is Workspace ONE Assist, which is kind of like think of a help desk, where you can an administrator or help support guy can actually get access to the end user's computer or their phone or whatever, and help them through their problem. Whether they're a frontline worker or they're a knowledge worker, they may be having a problem. There's, as we all know as technologists, there's nothing better than seeing what the person is seeing. Otherwise, they're trying to describe it to you and you're trying to figure out what the problem is. So now I can see what the person is seeing on their screen, and I can help. So there's the idea of, okay, maybe someone just wants Workspace ONE Assist. They don't need the full UEM stack. So that would do the same kind of thing. It would register their device, and they would only
Contractor workloads where you don't want to
exactly.
fully manage the device, M&As where they're coming on board, where you still need to provide the user with the intelligent hub, but where we're still in a transition point to move them over to a full UEM deployment. Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, they may be transitioning off of another MDM, so they need to migrate, but before they can do that, we need to be able to help them. We need to have them, get them secure access. So those are the kind of features. Absolutely.
How about our partnership with Better Cloud that was announced, Roger? I really saw that coming out. I thought that was a welcome addition as far as what we're doing now with SaaS management.
Yep, and I must admit I don't know a ton about this. This is fairly new, so it's about managing SaaS applications. So I'm not sure again how people are going to get access to this and what all it can do. There's a lot of talk about it at this point, but I don't have a lot of details on how.
Well, shout out to your podcast. So Roger hadn't brought it up, but he is the weekly co-host of the Digital Workspace Tech Zone podcast, which I'm sure that you will have a breakdown of all of these products and even more. I know that I had just listened to the most recent episode that you had on one of, again, an announcement that came out this week, which was Workspace ONE XR Hub and what we're doing with digital reality and augmented reality workspaces that you had with Matt Cummington. Really appreciated that episode. So, as we start to go into this Better Cloud partnership that we're doing with, SaaS app management. So there's things like, let's say Office, Office 365, Dropbox and whatnot. We're sure we can do the SAML provisioning of the user account, but then how do you do that fine-grained tuning of the user permissions within the app? So now we're lining that up through some API consumption. And I'm sure Roger will detail that all on the Digital Workspace Tech Zone podcast.
Absolutely. We'll have some Better Cloud guys on or some experts on to talk about what this integration looks like and what's available. And I would like to go into the XR Hub just briefly. Please check out that podcast. It was published on Monday. Again, the Digital Workspace Tech Zone podcast. You can find it on most all major podcast apps or on the Tech Zone website, but it's basically a new version, slightly different version of the Intelligent Hub application that's designed specifically for AR and VR. So right now it really only works on the Android platforms and some of that, but I know it is coming for Microsoft's HoloLens as well. And so think of this as just really a hub application that's designed for that AR VR. And one of the biggest use cases, as Matt pointed out on that podcast, is training. And people are seeing a huge amount of effectiveness in their training when they're using VR. And one of the funniest things is that, people, we all know that if I'm in a training session, I've got Slack running on the other screen, and I may have something else going on another screen. When you're in the VR, when you got a VR headset on, you can't do that. You are focused on that training. You can't be distracted by other things. You can't see other windows on your computer. And so what companies are finding is when they do that VR training, it is, something like 60 or 70% more effective, or even 80%. I forget what Matt said.
I think the stat that Matt dropped was 80% more effective.
80% more effective. Yeah, exactly. So that is really cool. And I'm really excited about this. And we'll see again, if you are interested in participating, you have VR headsets or you're thinking about it, and you are in like a retail or you're in a healthcare or you're a frontline worker or something like that, check out that podcast and go to the beta website of VMware and sign up for this beta. You can pull down the application, and especially if you're a Workspace ONE UEM customer already, or Workspace ONE Access customer, then you can get access to those things. I'd like to close out with really the couple features that are, and I've talked a lot about Workspace ONE UEM. I haven't hit on Horizon, and I'm not really a Horizon expert, so there's some stuff there, but I would encourage people to watch the keynote for those. The things that I really wanted to talk about that are coming very soon, and these have been a long time coming, is Freestyle Orchestrator and Linux support. And before I jump into either one of those, I would just want to explain what's kind of going on the back end of Workspace ONE UEM. We have spent the last couple of years really working on the underpinnings of the product to make it much more robust and much more flexible. So I'm going to call it the control plane. We've basically rewritten a bunch of the services that are required to make this thing work, and created new services that are now microservices that run in containers. So there is a control plane that controls all of these containers and all of these services. If it detects that there's a huge load of people enrolling devices, it'll spin up more enrollment services containers. So it'll expand. That's the great news. The part that's taken so long is that we basically have to update and wire in all of our existing environments to use the control plane. So that means going to all of our SaaS environments and basically installing control plane, going in and wiring it up. And that is what is kind of holding up the release of Freestyle and Linux support, because they are dependent on the control plane. They were built with that in mind, knowing that the flexibility and the functionality and all these great cool things that come with the control plane are required to do that. So what we're seeing right now is that it looks like in Q4, we should have our SaaS environments updated, and then we'll start to see Freestyle and Linux support coming and being GA'd in those. They're both available, I think, in UAT environments and kind of beta or limited release. But as we start to roll this control plane out to all these SaaS environments, you'll start to see it. And then later next year, we'll start to see it available for on-prem environments as well. But Freestyle is this amazing tool that is basically a low-code scripting language that you build into Workspace ONE UEM, which can do things that people have been screaming for a long time. Is I need to check and see if this file exists on my computer, and I need to check and see if this folder is there, and I need to check the version of the operating system, and I need to do all these things, and then I can install this app. And once I've installed the app, I need to make sure that these things happen correctly. And all of that stuff can be scripted in Freestyle Orchestrators, so that now you've got this basically very robust, almost unlimited set of actions that you can do whenever you want to take an action on a device. I want to install an app. I want to check antivirus. I want to do all of these types of things. Whereas now you were limited to some, fixed HTML5 type options inside of Workspace ONE UEM. Now you've got the freedom to build these Freestyle Orchestrator scripts that will allow you to do that. And all that stuff is drag and drop. You can pick your object, and you don't have to know C# or any of the programming language. You just drag and drop these things in there, and then you execute
the SCCM task sequence with a GUI with not even necessarily even have to enroll the device. This can be from a device enrollment forward, and then the ongoing management. It's an incredibly powerful tool.
Yeah, thanks, Matt, for pointing that out. I mean, that's really the thing that a lot of our customers have said, I cannot move to Workspace ONE from SCCM until you have something that will replace this feature in SCCM. And that's what this is really, really going to do, plus some. So I'm really, really excited about that. That's really cool. Linux support also, we have kind of had Linux support, but basically it's just been an inventory thing. You can enroll your device, and that's really it. Now you can actually enroll your device. You can push down profiles, Wi-Fi profiles, certificates, and then we support custom scripting. So anything, and I forget the name of the scripting engine, I apologize, but basically it's a very popular scripting tool. You create a script, you push it down using Workspace ONE to that Linux device, and now you can do what you need to do. And this is really geared towards developers initially. So if you're working at a company where you've got a bunch of developers that are using Linux, this is great for that. And
mobile also potentially coming along the lines for Freestyle Orchestrator
absolutely,
as well, Roger?
Good. I'm glad you pointed that
Tech
out. Yes.
preview?
Initially, it's Windows, and then it'll be Mac and mobile. So this will be covering all operating systems, all device types. Yes, absolutely.
All right, Matt. All right, Roger. That sounds like a great update. Good job. Got a lot of information there in the 10 minutes, I got to say. And I would say that the Digital Workspace Tech Zone, if you just go to podcast.vmware.com now, we got a new podcast page that aggregates up all the popular podcasts, and Digital Workspace Tech Zone is in that. So if you want to just go to podcast.vmware.com, we have those aggregated up in an RSS stream, as well as links directly into their podcast. So go check that out.
Oh, cool. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, podcast.vmware.com. Go check that out. We've kind of soft launched that site. It'll be integrated into vmware.com. It's there already, but we haven't put it in the nav yet, but we're going to do that as well. So go there, check out Digital Workspace, Tech Zone, and sounds like you guys had a lot of work to do. So got things done. So appreciate that. And Dan, thanks for being so quiet during that time. It's always fun to listen.
Of course, I'm learning.
Yeah,
it's amazing to hear how quickly the Workspace ONE team worked over the pandemic to really release a lot of new useful features to our customers. It's inspiring. I think you'll hear in a lot of the developments on the infrastructure and operations side a similar trend in a way. Of course, we had to support as a company remote workers, but developers had to build apps to support new use cases, remote work use cases, and beyond. Thinking about customers like we highlighted at VMworld this year, like FedEx, having to adjust their infrastructure to build their new supply chain for like cold transmit for vaccines. Things like that are just really inspiring stories in how customers are using our infrastructure and how our product teams are keeping up with unique needs as the pandemic has evolved.
It is interesting to understand that I think there's also going to be pent up jobs and projects because everybody had to shift for like a year and a half to do all the end user, transition, right? And then the traditional optimize, offer new products, offer new ways of doing business, kind of put on the back burner while we were doing that transition. And I got to imagine now we're going to see an acceleration of traditional projects that are more focused on business delivery of value to their customers that traditionally will work in the favor of Kubernetes and running Kubernetes apps, new modern apps, building, because as we come out of the pandemic, I could see that there's going to be a shift from pure end user computing projects back to core business value for delivering services to customers.
Yeah, and faster than ever. I think two themes that have come out of this period of time and that we have adapted to in our product releases are the speed of application delivery. We've enabled, and we know developers need to move faster, and a lot of our product enhancements are there to support that. But then also the right services for the right app or the right location for the right app. A lot of what we'll talk about in just a second is the right location for your infrastructure based on the unique requirements that you have for a given application. And so our optionality is as broad as it's ever been. It's kind of amazing to think about how many different ways you can deploy an app on a VMware Cloud, given your use case. It's pretty incredible. But why don't we start? You want to get going with some of the announcements themselves?
Yeah. Why don't you?
Yeah. So let's start with what's happening with VMware Cloud on AWS. Obviously, our preferred partner for vSphere workloads. My favorite announcement, and the one I wanted to start with, is VMware Cloud on AWS with Tanzu services. And so essentially, we're adding Tanzu services, which we'll explain in a second, to all of our VMware Cloud on AWS customers and their deployments. And so, just to back up a second, VMware Cloud on AWS has always been the fastest way to get to the cloud, to take your vSphere environment and migrate to the cloud, and to modernize your applications with access to AWS services. You're in AWS, you have the direct connection to outside of your private cloud. And now with Tanzu services, we're building in Tanzu Kubernetes Grid and Tanzu Mission Control right into that same stack. So from your infrastructure, you can spin up a VMware version of Kubernetes with Tanzu Kubernetes Grid. And then with Tanzu Mission Control, you have your operational layer for not only VMware Kubernetes, but any other conformant Kubernetes that you run. And that can be in AWS, like EKS, or it can be in another cloud. So TMC, Tanzu Mission Control, is a really incredible offering that gives sort of the multi-cloud flair to Kubernetes management. And that's going to be available to all of our VMC and AWS customers. So pretty exciting to check out there. And not only that, I should mention too, if you want to jump into this as a customer, we now have a free tier to TMC. So you can jump in and just start looking at what your operational model would be with Kubernetes. And then there's also a community edition to TKG. So check out both of those. We have lots of sessions talking about them. You can find the URLs to go get started with those right away.
Yeah, Michael Roy did a great session yesterday on code where they just showed how to, get the community edition running on your Mac, right? And somebody else gave a single command line that you can do to just run in a shell on a Mac that'll go pull all the components down and actually install it and spin it up, and all of a sudden you have a community edition of Tanzu right there. So a lot of fun activity talking about getting that deployed.
Yeah, and if you think about why use Tanzu for Kubernetes, if you are working in a vSphere environment today, it is your fastest path to running Kubernetes. It's really an easy button. It's built in. You can turn it on, and you're started, and it's integrated into the same management kind of interface. So you're not working with a third-party set of tools. You're still within VMware, and it's just as easy as it could be.
Right. And then you quickly find you do need mission control, because as you start to use it and actually start to introduce pods and workloads, it's like you need to keep track of this stuff, right? And so you quickly graduate from using a community edition to actually, how do I actually track all of these workloads that are actually happening, right? So it is.
Yeah, and you may even discover other teams using other versions of Kubernetes that you can pull into your mission control. And so that kind of discovery process in your organization is pretty important as well.
Great announcement.
Yeah, that one's awesome. So congrats to the team on shipping that. The next is an enhancement to VMware Cloud disaster recovery. So you've always been able to use VMware Cloud on AWS as your DR site, right? But now we have a new way to utilize that, essentially, which is single file recovery. And what that does is allows you to specify files that are the most likely use cases affected by ransomware. So somebody has encrypted your files, they're holding you for ransom. You can actually roll back your DR based on just those files affected by ransomware. So it's a very targeted way to use DR and a great defense against ransomware.
Yeah, I know Facebook went down yesterday for like 5 hours, and I thought of the whole, like, how would you restore if they actually got in and started encrypting stuff? And it like takes 5 hours. We had a whole conversation around, like, what does the first hour do? What does the second hour do? Why does it take 5 hours? And what's the recovery? And I don't know if it was a ransomware. Right. I don't know anything about the failure. I heard it was DNS. My son actually. Yeah. Facebook, so he couldn't tell me too much that I could even talk about, but there is a sequence to recovery, and how long does that sequence take? And if you can go get one file versus 15 terabytes of stuff that you have to wade through to figure out how to get things running again, makes a big difference.
You're much more agile. It's a much faster recovery. Let's stick with AWS. So we have a new joint offering with AWS. It is VMware Cloud on AWS Outposts. So if you're familiar with AWS Outposts, basically they'll drop an AWS rack in your data center and manage it for you. And it's AWS in your data center. If you have basically like data privacy or maybe latency requirements for your applications, that's a useful option for you. Now we've co-built with AWS VMware Cloud running on AWS Outposts. And this is one of the first of two local cloud options. So essentially, infrastructure as a service run by AWS and VMware in your own data center. And the other we'll talk about in just a second. But essentially, this again solves for those data privacy and latency requirements, but you're running a like-for-like infrastructure in your data center with Outposts, and if you're in VMware Cloud on AWS and AWS. And so this really gives you the most seamless scalability for your applications and hybrid connectivity. And it's not to say that VCF connected to VMware Cloud and AWS isn't an excellent hybrid cloud solution, but this is very much one-to-one the same infrastructure.
Nice.
And then in a similar vein, so local cloud, for those who aren't familiar with it, again, it's a cloud infrastructure running in your data center that you consume as a service, but it's run by the likes of AWS, VMware, or in this case, Dell. So we've evolved our offering that was once called VMware Cloud on Dell EMC, now Apex Cloud Services with VMware Cloud. So it is taking it to another level. It's just the evolution of this product delivered by Dell. And it's another option for running your infrastructure as a service in your own data center and managed by a third party.
Yeah, I got to say that the options, you listen to Raghu choice, there is just a lot of choice now. And I look at all the things that I've had to learn for VMworld and all the sessions. You do have to start figuring out what you're going to do and what you're not, right? Because to be able to scale and to really keep up with the times, it's like you're going to have to choose what's going to be a service, what are you going to outsource, and are you going to worry about edge? You're going to go spend time in EUC, like where are you going to? And you have to start selectively building infrastructure as service just so that you can stay on top of the top level, higher level functions, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's where, we're helping our customers move towards, is delivering business value, focusing on that versus focusing on hardware management, break fix, et cetera. AWS and VMware can do that for you. Dell can do that for you. Let you focus on your business value in your applications.
I just look at it as a natural evolution where I'm no longer racking and stacking machines, right? We gave that up.
Yep.
We gave up wiring. We gave up, when we went virtual, there's a lot of these jobs that you went, oh, I'm going to be sad for missing that. And I paused. I go, no, wait, do we? But then you realize, oh, wait, there's so many things up the stack to do that you just, this is kind of an evolution of that, where there's still plenty of things up the stack to learn and spend time with and engage with. YAML files, Kubernetes, everything that has to be done. This higher level application anywhere perspective, that it's kind of nice just to have the base. And I love the idea that you can have the base, the cloud infrastructure on any of the cloud providers. Listen to Raghu talk about the VMware Cloud Provider Program, and just know that you have choice all along this journey, but you're probably going to want to take those choices and use them so that you can focus at the higher level.
Yeah, we'll talk about a couple of the really interesting new choices in the provider program in a second. But yeah, that optionality is critical. Really allows you, again, to find the best cloud for every app. And that can be on premises. It can be in any of the hyperscalers we work with, and then thousands of other specialized clouds. It's pretty incredible breadth. Along the same vein, I think a lot of customers will be interested in Project Arctic. So search around for sessions on this one. This is in technical preview. And essentially, we're evolving vSphere to be a multi-cloud platform. So it brings cloud connectivity natively into vSphere. And so we essentially allow you to manage your on-premises vSphere environment by SaaS, and then natively integrate any of our other cross-cloud services. And I think I just dropped like 3 different concepts. So vSphere, everybody knows, all good. Let's move into cross-cloud services. This is our way to position as VMware. We provide services that work across all of your different cloud environments. And whether that's your infrastructure, your management, your app development platform, security, or end user services, those all work across multiple clouds. And it's your choice. Again, you have that optionality to figure out what works best for you, or we'll work with you on that. But essentially with Project Arctic, you're moving towards running your vSphere environment on premises as a service. And then you can plug and play any of these other services. So say you need to add disaster recovery, or expand capacity, or add security. That becomes a natively integrated service within your vSphere environment. And so it's quite a powerful direction that we're taking the vSphere platform. It makes multi-cloud the default operating model, and it's something to keep an eye out for, because there's a lot more to come here.
This just reminds me of the old days with Red Hat, and we were competing at the hypervisor level, right? And in the end, everybody was like, oh, VMware is going to be dead. How many times did we hear back in the Microsoft was doing Hyper-V, OpenStack, the whole thing was just so competitive. Everybody's like, oh, VMware's done. But then as it turns out, we just did eloquent solutions that were software solutions that just work for people. And we took away the pain of doing this and making these components work. And I look at multi-cloud, and I'm seeing the same exact thing, right? Which is like, well, actually, there's reasons to have your application with this cloud vendor. There's reasons they got APIs and services that make that app work and behave properly. So you choose that cloud vendor for your Outlook or your mail, but you need connectivity across those. And then if you start looking at what you need to operate that, you actually need software that works across that. And I see VMware stepping in where it's like, well, Amazon's going to put everybody out of business because everybody's going to just go buy Amazon services native. Why would you need VMware in between these? But then all of a sudden, well, VMs actually work because it gives you security, gives you that. Oh, well, you want to have more than one cloud. How are you going to manage those Kubernetes workloads? Oh, we got Grid. Oh, we're giving you Arctic now, so you can just plug all this stuff in, have a dashboard for it. It's like all of a sudden you start looking at these high quality software layers that pull this all together, and you're like, oh, this is like vCenter for cloud.
Yeah, I mean, multi-cloud computing infrastructure as an IT concept, kind of abstracting again, like we always have above almost a physical layer. We're abstracting above all of the clouds.
Yeah.
And we're saying, how do you run each of these components that may exist in AWS, may exist in Azure, may exist at the edge? Can you plug in disaster recovery here, security everywhere, different applications in different clouds based on the services available in them? It is very powerful. And I think a lot of companies are coming to the realization that they're already using multiple clouds. And now it's more in the next couple of years, this year and beyond, about the intent behind that. How do you intentionally create more value with a multi-cloud strategy?
Yeah.
So let's take it. I know we have a couple of minutes left. I'll be cognizant of everybody's time.
10 minutes here.
Yeah, let's talk about a different type of infrastructure at the edge. So kind of a newer concept, but it's logical. It's like you're running applications out in the field. You have data processing that has to happen very close to the sensor or wherever data is being collected, and so that you've been able to do that with VMware for a long time. But we've created the easiest possible way to do that, which is called the edge compute stack. And so again, for apps that need to run closer to users, machines, sensors, we have this purpose-built stack, which is what you'd expect. It's VMware Cloud, which is our hyperconverged infrastructure, vSphere, NSX, vSAN, and management. But on top of that, combined with our SD-WAN. And also, when I talk about VMware Cloud, I'm including Kubernetes containers as well. That's the de facto standard now when you're talking about infrastructure with VMware. Containers are always there. But it's this infrastructure and operations plus networking that allows you to drop in an edge stack wherever you need to go and connect it back to your multi-cloud environment. And so
I'll just do a shout out.
Yeah.
We did a podcast 573 with Manu, and he's VP of Edge Computing. He came in. If you want to go back and listen to that, 573 vmw.re/pod. Go listen to that. That was a great podcast we did a couple of weeks ago that talked all about Edge. So very cool to listen to that one. So Dan, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Yeah, and you may have thousands of these edge stacks running, depending on your application needs. But they all become part of your multi-cloud environment. They're all connected within the same multi-cloud layer. And I wanted to say that because another kind of connectivity enhancement that we have is Project Ensemble. As you know, vRealize, our cloud management family of products, includes vRealize Operations, vRealize Automation, and vRealize Network Insight. And essentially, the obvious evolution is to combine those together and give you one unified experience, aptly named Project Ensemble. But not only are we combining that into a logical interface, we're giving you new insights and new workflows that come out of that combination. So keep an eye out on Project Ensemble for those using vRealize. And then
I had not
go
heard
ahead.
that, but there you go. Another one I've missed. Yep.
Lots happening at VMworld. And then the last one I wanted to cover is, again, back to this notion of optionality. You have so many choices of where you can run your apps with VMware infrastructure and operations. Sorry about that. And then, you have the hyperscaler options, AWS, Azure, Google, your own data center. And then I think not enough people realize thousands of specialized cloud partners. And these can fill very useful niches for our customers. And there's two I want to cover. So the first is for organizations that have a sustainability mandate or are committed to zero carbon within their organization. You can find a cloud partner where you can run your infrastructure and applications that has zero carbon committed. And you can go through our VMware Cloud provider partner program search, find these partners, contact them, work with them. And then that becomes one of the ways that IT can contribute to a sustainability initiative within their company and start going down the route of zero carbon. So very, very cool there. And then, and then the last is probably, I kind of saved one of my favorites for last, which is Sovereign Cloud. So if you think about why you might use one of these 4,000 specialized partners that we have, it's going to be unique requirements. They may be located in a specific area. You want to be close to your cloud. They may be specialized in something like disaster recovery or cloud migration. They're going to help you with that. But a new specialization is in cloud sovereignty, or as a sovereign cloud provider. And essentially what this means is that cloud provider will keep your data within region and comply with data sovereignty laws. And this is super important for our European customers and many around the world that have laws to comply to. You can now work with our sovereign cloud providers to deploy your applications and consume your infrastructure as a service from one of these providers and meet those regulations. So opening up cloud to a new set of customers that may have thought they had to keep everything in their own data center. So, a great opportunity for expansion there.
So is it realistic to think that if I'm running vCenter somewhere, in AWS, wherever, and I can connect these, so I can then see where my ESX servers are in various multi-cloud environments and be able to just watch the workloads from a central pane?
Yeah, absolutely. All of our cloud provider partners in the sovereign cloud infrastructure is still VMware infrastructure. They're all running a VMware Cloud, and that all rolls back up to you as a cloud operator.
All right. Awesome. Sounds like you've been busy. You're going to be busy.
I've been super busy. This has been a great lead up to the event. Super fun. Learned a lot. Met a lot of great teams building these things. So congratulations to everybody that worked on these announcements. It's awesome.
So Matt, I'll let you do the how does everybody contact everybody? Why don't you take us through the end that we get with our guests here?
Roger, if they would want to reach out to you, are you on social media, or how are our listeners best to contact you directly, sir?
Yeah, sure. I'm on Twitter, and they can, it's at Roger Dean with an E on the end. Certainly reach out to me there. I don't think I've got any restrictions on direct messages, or you can send me a direct message there, or just, send me an at tweet. That's really the best thing from a social media standpoint. And of course, if we need to, we can give out our email address if someone really needs to get a hold of me. The other way would be if you go to techzone.vmware.com and you can find if you want to give me feedback on one of the podcasts, you can always provide feedback from the TechZone site. There's also an email alias that we've got is, eucpodcast@vmware.com. So you can just send me an email at eucpodcast@vmware.com.
Thank you very much for that. And Dan, for you, sir, if one of our listeners would want to reach out to you direct, sir, how are they best to do that?
Yeah. Hit me on Twitter. Basically, look at my name here on the screen, but Daniel P. Flaherty as my handle.
And so for our listeners, FLAHERTY. FLAHERTY.
Oh, these Irish names are a little tricky, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. So guys, both of you, I know I look at my calendar today and it's like meeting, session. And I kind of grabbed you and shook you guys both out of this. You need to come talk about your announcements. So I appreciate it. We will get 4,000 downloads for sure this week. And I appreciate you squeezing us into your calendar and doing this for us over your lunchtime. I hope you were able to get some food, get some sleep, and enjoy the rest of the show. I know we're going until sometime mid-tomorrow, Thursday. So I'm still excited. I'm still going to be drinking some coffee. Thanks a lot for breaking out and coming and doing the VMworld 2021 podcast with us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Happy to be here. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you again next week. We got stuff scheduled for the rest of the year. Till then, Matt, enjoy the show and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.